What's up, guys? Welcome into another episode of Bogey Free. Steve Holupka and I are coming at you with some Week 13 action. I just had to confirm that it's actually Week 13 a second ago. It seems like this NFL season is kind of going by in a blur. So, Steve, what's going on tonight, man?
Man, just watching this debacle by the Washington Redskins on Thursday night playing Dallas, it's just gross right now, man. So totally nasty.
That's it. I won't even turn it on at this point. You told me what happened, and I'm like, you know what? Nope. Just need some football free vision right now. Just wanna talk about the upcoming, like, hopefully good slate this weekend.
Yeah, that's probably your best bet because this is just disgusting right now. I mean, Washington's totally just crapping the bed.
Speaking of crapping the bed, we before we get into anything, I'm in a glass case of emotion right now. Like, I have this like unbelievable like sentimental hole in my heart because of Eli being benched. And yes, I don't care. He sucks. Whatever. You don't like him. People hate him. People think he's overrated. I don't give a shit. He has been the quarterback of my favorite team since I was in high school. Like, and he's just like kicked to the curb. So I'm all torn up about that. We got fucking Tiger Woods coming back, shooting 69 today, just showing signs of life. Josh Gordon's coming back. Like, I'm so excited. I'm so upset. I'm so annoyed. Like, I can't even get my head on straight right now. So that's where I'm at right now. What are your 2 cents there on the Eli thing at
Dude,
least?
totally agree, man. Like, it's so frustrating, especially when they turn to Geno Smith of all people versus going to Davis Webb.
Right.
Like, you know what you're getting in Geno, and you're getting a mediocre quarterback at best.
Right.
Like, just McAdoo sucks so much. I don't even know why they're keeping him on board. Like, Mara came out and said they might fire him. Just get it over with. We don't want the just anger and it's so frustrating. So frustrating.
Yeah, it's wild. Me and my friends were kind of going back and forth this week about it, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, I could maybe understand if it was Webb. You know, like I'd be like, all right, you know, if Eli's cool with it, then whatever. But it's just like, come on, man. Like, you don't do that to that guy. Like, I don't know. It's super tilting. And I can't. Like, thank God Tiger played well today. Like, I know for a fact that like he's gonna end up shooting like 77 on Saturday, and like my whole weekend's gonna be ruined. But like today was nice. Like, I don't know if you saw it. Darren Ravel tweeted out like FanDuel reported like this crazy spike in golf action this week because of Tiger. Like, it's just so much better when Tiger's around.
Of course,
and he played well today. So hopefully he can put 4 rounds together because I am fully in. I'm like so pumped about this whole thing.
Love it.
That's where I'm at right now. I didn't get to talk golf this week with Evan, so I had to sneak in some golf love.
Get your little couple seconds in for golf. Yeah, no,
exactly. So as we sort of look backwards to last week, we won't spend a ton of time on it, but the winner of the listener league, Crocs 94, just obliterated everybody. Like, I mean, full disclosure, my lineup was dog shit. Like, I didn't even break 100. Like, brutal stuff. And he beat me by almost 100. Like, he put up 198. He basically had anybody who's ever traveled to Atlanta, like any Falcon was on his team this week. I mean, honestly, he had, besides the defense, he had everybody on his team was in like the teens of ownership, and he still crushed it. He just hit a play. I mean, he put up almost 200 despite having Kenny Stills in the lineup. Like, just wild. He hit Julio and Kamara and Coleman and Ryan. Like, he hit on so many solid plays this week. So kudos to him. Shoot me a DM. I'll send you a bogey free hat. Crocs 94. I'm not going to put in that much work to find you, but if you're listening and you feel so inclined, the DMs are always open. So there's that. I'm not even going to talk about my team. I made 3 lineups this weekend. I didn't play a ton. I just needed a little reprieve. So I'll be fully back in this week. So speaking of week 13, we might as well shoot over to QBs. And I guess before we dive in like position by position, one thing I've noticed this week, just putting my spreadsheet together and stuff, this is one week that's sort of interesting from like a Vegas total perspective. Like there's no 52, 53 point game, right? The highest is 48 and a half. And we go down to like a typical 39 and a half. So no real like obvious like super game stack smash spots. I think there are some games that you can do that obviously this week, and we'll talk about that throughout the show. But it is interesting to see sort of like a more bunched group of Vegas lines. So what do you think that does for ownership this week, Steve? You think that kind of spreads things out and makes it a little flatter than usual?
Yeah, I think it should. I mean, especially like you said before, not a ton of game stack action that you can see. There's probably one or two spots that you could stack an entire game, but yeah, I mean, not a ton of big totals either. We do have some touchdown plus favorites, which typically means you're going to see some higher ownership on those players. But yeah, without these really high totals, yeah, you're probably just going to see that ownership kind of percentage spread out amongst a bunch of guys versus kind of that centralized ownership on one or two teams.
Right, exactly. So why don't we head right over to one of those higher up at the top? We have these high spreads, these big favorites with Tom Brady and Phil Rivers. Are we paying all the way up here? I mean, we have Brady at 7,800 and Rivers at 7K. Can we afford these guys this week in pretty decent spots?
Yeah, so I mean, Rivers is almost a 2-touchdown favorite at home against Cleveland, who's just been hemorrhaging points right and left. I mean, geez, last week the Bengals just stomped them, and Andy Dalton and Joe Mixon both look great. So I could see paying up for Rivers. I don't think you have to pay up for Brady, especially in cash. I think definitely he's in play for GPPs, but I don't see the need in cash games with so many kind of mid-tier quarterbacks with at least intriguing matchups. So I wouldn't pay all the way up at 7,800, but I think Rivers is certainly viable in cash with that big favor and really having that connection back with Keenan Allen.
Yeah, I think if you can find a couple of decent value plays that you like elsewhere, I'm almost done with the cash game article, and I have Rivers as sort of my pay up guy this week, just because I think he basically has like a similar projection to Brady, and you're getting a price discount, and it's really a better matchup. Like I think the ceiling is a little bit higher. Just because, I mean, the Chargers could just come out and stomp on Cleveland. Like there's no real fear that Cleveland is just going to show up all of a sudden, especially because the game's in LA. So, yeah, that's kind of all the way up at the top. Right below him, I think some people are considering Cam this week, assuming, sort of trying to figure out the health of the secondary in New Orleans. Are you interested in Cam at all, or is that's just a stay away?
It looks like Crowley and Lattimore both practiced, so I'm going to probably look to fade Cam in some spots. He'll be like a 5%er in GPPs for me, but especially not in cash. I know it's in the Superdome. I know there's a big total for the week. It's 48. Carolina's a small dog there, but still, with those two corners coming back, completely changes this defense. So I will not be playing Cam in cash.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Who are we thinking for sort of paying down in cash? I mean, I know that just sort of scrolling through FanShare and just looking at some of the tag numbers, like a lot of people are talking up Brett Hundley this week after a pretty good game in the what was it, Monday night against Pittsburgh last week. Mm-hmm. So you got that. I mean, if you have the stones to play Geno in the good matchup, then Godspeed. I'm not going to fucking do that at all.
No way.
You also have Tyrod Taylor. At home, people are talking about him, and then Bortles is getting some love down here as well on FanShare. So where are you going if you're gonna sort of go a little budget quarterback in cash?
I think there's a couple options. So once you get below or 6,000 or below, I actually like Case Keenum a lot. playing in Atlanta. Inside, he's got two of the best receivers right now in the game, obviously, with Thielen and Diggs. Kyle Rudolph got involved a lot last week as well, catching 2 touchdowns. And they had that mini bye for playing on Thanksgiving. So I like Keenum a lot at 6K. Going down a little bit lower on the list, Josh McCown, you could play him in GPPs, I think, with the Jets playing against a Kansas City team that the wheels just fallen off of. Obviously, had that big game against Carolina, and especially at home against Kansas City, whose defense and back end, they just add Darrelle Revis and it looks like he's going to play. So you should exploit that matchup wherever you can. So I really think McCown could be in play in GPPs. But if you're going really bargain hunting, bottom of the barrel, I kind of do like the Hundley call. He looked confident in that offense. He really has a connection with Devontae Adams, who's kind of taken over as the number 1 there. And he's in a really great matchup because Tampa's secondary is just absolute trash. So home spot, looks like Jameis is going to play, so they're going to have to score some points as well in Green Bay. So I expect a lot of passing, a lot of throwing for Hundley, and he's also got that upside with his legs. So I think for 51, you could certainly have worse options.
Yeah, I think people are rightfully buying into Hundley. I mean, it's easy to sort of shit on a kid who, hasn't really had a lot of opportunity and really, looked pretty lost for most of his first couple of starts, but there's obviously room for improvement, and he showed a little bit of that this past week. So I think that's probably where I'll end up if I end up paying down in cash, but I don't know. I think Rivers against Cleveland at home is going to be too much for me to pass up. But I guess we'll see as the week goes on. Outside of that, are we throwing any darts in GPPs at quarterback, or what are we thinking?
Besides McCown, I could see some of Blake Bortles against Indy. We know their top corner's out, so it should definitely be a better matchup for him at home as a big favorite, 9.5-point favorite against one of the worst passing defenses according to DVOA from Football Outsiders. They're the 28th pass defense right now. So Blake Bortles with 5,400. Plus, he also showed last week he can actually still run the ball too, scoring twice on the ground. So there's that upside there as well with him. Going lower than that, I'm probably going to stay away, like you said, from Geno. I want no part of him at all. What are your thoughts about Trevor Siemian?
Yeah, I don't know. I really can't do it. I don't think. I'll just find the $300 and play Hundley. I'm not. I get it. I totally get the rationale. Miami has looked awful against the pass, especially recently. But I can't do that. What price would Geno have to be for you to play him this week?
Probably 3K.
Yeah,
I think 3K. I'd be on 3K because then to make your money back, it's just he has to throw 1 touchdown, get 100 yards.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of where I was at too. I'm you can't put him at a price that I would actually play him at this week, just because who the hell knows? It's a very real possibility that just nobody on the Giants gives a shit anymore. This is complete. We're done. There's no. Obviously they were done before this, but there's no hope. Oh, maybe we could string some wins together at the end of the year. There's nothing. It's done. I think Jenkins went out right on IR. He had ankle surgery.
IR, yeah.
It's just there's nobody there. There's no reason to play Geno. Don't do it. It's way too cute. Way too cute. All right. So as we shoot over to running back, we have an $8,400 Alvin Kamara this week. No fucking thank you.
Nope.
No, I totally get it. And I love the kid. I think he is one of the flashiest, most talented players that we probably have in the NFL, but he's getting 12 to 15 touches, at best, right? 8,400. You're going to put him over some of these guys that we're going to get to in a minute. I can't. 74 is fine. I can wrap my head around that. Even that seems a little still borderline, but 8,400 as the most expensive guy on the slate is definitely interesting to see. I'm definitely interested to see how his ownership shakes out. just because I can't imagine people paying up for him at that price tag, but it's very possible. You're fully. I don't even know if I'll play him in GPPs, honestly.
See, I think you have to just for the upside, just in case that game's a shootout. I think you can definitely game stack that Carolina-New Orleans game and then put Kamara in. Like, I could definitely see Kamara with your boy McCaffrey in like a game stack. I know how much you would love that lineup, but I could see it happening. I could see people rostering that, but definitely not in cash. Like, I'm a guy who's averaging 12 touches a game for 8,400. Like, that's just it's like you giving money to just DraftKings. You're just feeding them all of your entry fees because you're not going to win anything back.
Yeah, I mean, and you know what? If he, he breaks this 75-yard touchdown run again, like, I'm okay with missing out on that. Yep. Like, I'll still be able to sleep at night just having him as. I'm honestly probably going to completely fade him. It seems to me, not to go back to golf again, but it's like when you have like one of these shit tournaments like the week before a major and nobody's playing except for like one guy and he's like 11K and you're just like, there's no upside here. Like, there's no real like plus EV that you can find in this situation unless Ingram gets hurt and Kamara gets all the work. That's the only way that he pays off at that price consistently. So,
right.
He's granted, what is he averaging 20 points a game? That's still not even 3X. So you're really banking on a ton of touchdowns or just a huge play that I'm not willing to pay up 8,400 for. As we go down, and I mean, I would like to just quickly talk about Kareem Hunt too, because it's like, talk about a guy who's just completely fallen out of whatever the hell those first few weeks were. I mean, he's lost it as the Chiefs have sort of lost it. But it's a similar thing with him, right? Like, you're looking at a guy who is shot out of a cannon and eventually the volume catches up. And now we're looking at him down at 6,900. And people were talking about trading him for Bell in Dynasty after like the first 3 weeks. Like, you really just have to focus on volume. Like, there's nothing else worth trying to chase, right? Like, we have to find volume up here. So where are we going in cash when we're paying all the way up at running back this week?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, you're looking to Melvin Gordon on the Chargers. I know he is splitting time with Eckler, but his floor right now for touches, it's too damn good. Playing against the Cleveland team who has lost their way against in the running game. Without Jamie Collins and some of their other defenders up front, they're just hemorrhaging yards. I mean, God, Cincinnati with that shitty offensive line was able to just beat the crap out of them and have Joe Mixon run for over 100 yards. So I like Melvin Gordon at 74. I think if you're talking about just total touch floor, you have to look at Todd Gurley at 8,200 and also LaShawn McCoy at 7,600. McCoy is such a vital part of that game. Even though he did lose some touches to Travaris Cadet in the passing game last week, I still think he's going to be a focal point against New England, who's just still a terrible defense on the ground at 29th overall in DVOA. So those, in terms of, I think, safe floor plays, I think those two are my favorites.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I'm definitely on board with the Gordon call. It's too. I mean, they made, like you said, they made Mixon look good last week, and I'm falling further and further away from believing in Mixon. So if they can do that for Mixon, I think Melvin Gordon, with the amount of volume he'll get, is a pretty safe bet. And you mentioned McCaffrey as well, a little bit before. I don't know, man. Are you? Can you? I don't know. You have to talk me into it because there's no way I'm playing him otherwise. Like, 7,200 seems super steep to me.
No, yeah, I mean, it certainly does. I think what you're looking at is you're telling yourself a story about this game where it shoots out because the over-under is 48. So in that shootout type atmosphere, you're not going to have as much Jonathan Stewart. You're not going to be seeing a ton of Greg Olsen. You have to believe it's a lot of dump offs to McCaffrey and against a run defense and a linebacking core that's beat up and not great. You would think McCaffrey gets a ton of touches here, especially with Lattimore back and Crawley back on the outside, who should limit Funches. So I think if you're looking at a kind of funneling targets to one or two people, it has to be, McCaffrey and then probably Cam running the ball.
Yeah. And then right below him, you have Tevin Coleman, who I believe Devontae Freeman cleared concussion protocol, so he should be back. And I mean, he's at 5,700 right now in Devontae Freeman. I think that I mean, granted, it's not a great spot matchup wise, but they are home favorites, right? I mean, there's something there if you want to take a shot at him in a GPP. I think that makes a little bit of sense if Atlanta can actually click and put up some points once again. So not something I'm going crazy on though. I do kind of want to go back to Jordan Howard this week, and I got burned by him, and then he came through for me the week after, and I haven't played him since. But I mean, 6,500. Playing San Francisco, like, I don't know. I think I could go for 80 and a touchdown maybe against San Francisco at this point.
I'm just looking at the injury report right now. I just want to check and see if Josh Sitton's practiced or not, because I know that'd be a big loss.
Yeah,
with his concussion. So he looked like he was limited coming through the concussion protocol. So if he plays, that's a big help to him on the inside.
Right.
So I think, if Sitton's a definite go, I think Howard is definitely in play.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, I could tell myself a story where if I fall in love with a couple of wide receivers and want to pay up at quarterback, I could maybe get there, assuming the health, what you just talked about. I could kind of get there in cash a little bit if I wanted to go a little bit more balanced. And then as we keep heading down, who's jumping out to you in this, like, from say like Howard to like Burkhead, like 5K to 6,500?
I think there's a bunch of names. I mean, you can look at Dion Lewis at 5,500. He seems to be, the every down back for New England now. Obviously, it's a crapshoot with them, but playing as a heavy favorite against Buffalo, who again has been getting torched on the ground besides last week against Kansas City. The backs in Minnesota are interesting too, just because how bad Atlanta's front has been. I know Minnesota's a small dog here on the road, but I could tell myself a story for either one of Murray or McKinnon. It seems like Murray's been the one that's been kind of shouldering the load and definitely getting the goal line touches. So I think his floor is safer. But in GPP, if this game's going to shoot out and hit that 47 over under, I think you can tell yourself where McKinnon gets a pretty decent workload here also.
Yeah, I'm good with both of those. Do you have any Murray love this week, or is he just completely just really not playable anymore?
He's total garbage, man. I mean, they give him the goal line work, which is great, but his slowed down so much. Like, it's crazy. So clear that Henry is such a better back than him right now at this stage of the game. And don't forget too, Houston is a damn good defensive front still. Clowney is just wrecking stuff all over the place. So I would not be super comfortable playing Murray, especially with the split with Henry.
Yeah, and I mean, even Henry at 4,700, it's like you'd love if he was super cheap and you could sort of get a little cute and throw him in a GPP, but I don't even think that's I don't even think that makes sense, like too much sense at least. He could always end up with 2 touchdowns and pay off, but I don't think that's a likely outcome by any stretch. And then outside of that, I mean, I know some people are talking about Kenyon Drake. I know some people are talking about Duke Johnson. I don't know. Do you have any conviction between those two at all this week?
I think from a game script perspective, I think Duke makes sense for 4,800 just because of that, matchup against LA. They should be down. Duke should see a bunch of targets and some draw plays and stuff like that when they're on their comeback trail. So I can make a case for Duke. I kind of like Jamal Williams actually for 4,700 against Tampa. Doesn't look like Ty Montgomery's going to play this week. He didn't practice again today or was extremely limited. So it looks like he's not going to play. So if he's going to get that kind of 15 to 20 touch floor for $4,700, I'll gladly take that and even throw it in the cash lineup just because you have that safe floor and touches against a defense who has just not been playing well throughout the entire year.
Right. Yeah, I think that makes sense. And then a little bit below him, we have Darkwa, who, I mean, if they throw the ball more than like 3 times this week with Geno, that's like a minus EV move. So they have to just run it like 40 times with Darkwa this week, right? Like that has to be a thing.
You would think his touch floor is there, but against Oakland, they might be just down by 3 touchdowns. Like I could see just a stupid like Seth Roberts touchdown, then Cordell Patterson like breaks a punt return or some crap like that. So
there is 100% chance that Patterson is scoring a touchdown this week.
Yeah,
like I have never been so sure of something in my life as Patterson scoring on the Giants this week. Like there's no doubt in my mind at all.
He's like 100% in your GPP lineups then, right?
You double dip with the Raiders defense, and you got a double touchdown there with the punt return. So you're golden there. It's perfect.
Love it. It's beautiful.
As we keep going, I mean, I know that there's a few guys down here, but there's no, I mean, unless, I don't know, full disclosure, I had parent-teacher conferences today, and I just got home, so I may be completely glossing over somebody, but is there anybody that's like just a mortal lock at like 4K or below?
I don't think so. I'm taking a look at the Lions injury report real quick just to see about Amir Abdullah. Because if he's out with that neck issue,
right,
we may see Theo Riddick for super cheap. Yeah, I mean, Amir Abdullah didn't practice on Thursday, so it looks like he might be out this week. So if that's the case, I mean, Theo Riddick, I think it's like 3,400 this week or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
So if you want to talk about touch floor against a Baltimore team, who I know is a pretty damn good run defense, but for 3,400, I mean, Theo could be a really good value.
Yeah, I could get on board with that with Abdullah out. I've been playing whack-a-mole with Riddick all year, and I haven't found any luck with that. But with Abdullah out, I think that would make a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so why don't we shoot over to wide receiver? We had the eruption last week from my cousin Julio, and just unbelievable, right? Like everybody's just completely off of him. He sucks. I don't understand. He doesn't get any work. He's not getting any targets, and he goes from like wide receiver 17 to wide receiver 4 on one game. Like complete stereotypical Julio Jones performance, right?
Right. Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, everyone doubting the man, and then he comes back and just blows just everything to smithereens. So it's crazy. I think there was a stat someone put out. The number of receivers with a plus 250-yard game, it's like 3 or 4 overall, and then Julio's got like 3 or 4 of those games by himself. It's just It's just stupid how good he is.
Yeah, it's wild. So he's all the way up at 8,600. He's the most expensive player, at least on the main slate this week. So are we able to? You think we're able to fit him in this week?
God, I mean, the matchup sucks, right? Xavier Rhodes is damn good, but then Marvin Jones just like torched him on Thanksgiving. Right. So I think there are better options if you pay down a bit than get going Julio, especially in cash. I think he's worth a GPP play if you're stacking that game, but not in cash. I like kind of the next 3 or 4 receivers a lot more.
Yeah, and I mean, even going down, it's so funny just looking through like prices and thinking about what we thought in the summer. Like it's just nuts to see like how things shake out. Like who would have thought Adam Thielen is going to be 7,500 this week? It's like it's really been awesome to see him break out like he has, but it's just funny. In that sort of 7K to Keenan Allen range, like right under Julio, you have Keenan Allen, Brandon Cooks, Thielen, who we mentioned, DeAndre Hopkins, Mike Evans, and Sterling Shepard. Who's the lock? Where are we going in cash?
I like Nuke, man, for 73. Like against Tennessee, Adoree Jackson's just getting beaten to pillar and post throughout every single week. And I mean, Nuke put up over 100 yards against Jimmy Smith in Baltimore. So, like against Tennessee in that putrid secondary, I'm all in on Nuke this week.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to argue, right? Like, and I think it's really an indictment on how shitty Brock Osweiler is, right? Because it's like Hopkins is still getting there with Savage. Like, it's pretty insane when you think about it. just looking through his game log, like he's had at least 9 targets since week 8. I mean, even in Arizona, right, against Peterson, he had a decent game. Like the Rams are no slouch. He had a great game against them. He played well against Baltimore, like you mentioned. Like, just lock him in. Don't overthink it. Like, he's 7,300 is way too low for the amount of targets that he's getting. So, fully on board there. I don't know. Is Mike Evans too cute this week? What do you think?
I mean, Jameis is supposed to be back. We think Jameis is going to play.
Is that a good thing or a bad
thing?
That's
a really good question. It's a good or bad thing. I mean, they lost 2 of their offensive linemen, Ali Marpet, their center, and DeMar Dotson, one of their tackles, is out. So obviously that's not great. Oh, God, Trent Williams is walking off the field now. Kirk Cousins is going to literally die at some point in this game. Oh, I feel so bad.
I think they're going to call you to fill in soon.
They might have to. I should get my pads on and get ready to go. But, yeah, I mean, Mike Evans for 71. I think there's going to be such a big percentage of ownership on Nuke that if you want to pay down the $200 as a GPP play, sure, go for it. I would not be comfortable with him in cash whatsoever. I'd much rather have either Keenan at 83, Cooks or Thielen than an Evans. So I think it might be a cute play, but not too cute if you're looking for some differentiation in GPPs.
Also, real quick, shout out Ali Marpet, Hobart guy, went to college with one of my boys. So got to shout. I mean, it sucks that he got hurt, but whatever. As we continue going lower, we got Michael Thomas right there at 6,900 and Funchess in the same game at 6,800. I mean, if you think that this game is going to go over, you have to have a piece of both of those guys, right?
You would have to, yeah. You would think so. I mean, I think I like Thomas more than Funchess, especially, like I said, if the corners are back. But yeah, I think you have to have a piece of it if you think they're going to get a ton of points in that game.
Yeah, and then you got Ty Fraud Hill right below 6,700. I'm sure he's gonna. They're in New Jersey. They're at the Jets, so he's obviously going to have a crazy game because he's so much better on the road than he is at home.
Right.
And then we have a suspended Crabtree, so he's not factoring in this week. What else is there to like down here in the 6K range? We have, I think you can make a case for Adams, right? He seems to be the guy for Hundley for all intents and purposes, whatever that counts for. And I think that makes a little bit of sense, especially considering how, Tampa, is there a worse secondary in the league? Like,
between them and the Raiders, I think it's a pretty tight matchup for just crappiest secondary unit in the league.
Right. It's awful. And then right below him, you have Kupp, who, no Woods. Unfortunately, they're going against Arizona, but how do we see that matchup shaking out? Do you think Kupp can still get there?
Yeah, he's not going to see Patrick Peterson, I don't think.
Right.
Sammy Watkins should be seeing the majority of Patrick Peterson, and the rest of the corners, unless Honey Badger decides to start playing really well, which he started to turn the corner this year a bit in the slot. But Kupp's been really good. He's had a really great floor, but a huge price increase this week too. Don't forget that. So I'm not sure if I'd be willing to pay the $6,400 for Kupp when I can get someone with much more upside, I think, than Robbie Anderson at $6,300, just $100 below him. Right. And then you can spend $100 more and get Devontae Adams, who is in a much better situation this week.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I don't have fan share pulled up for the wide receivers right now, but I would think. I don't know. How do you think that ownership shakes out there? I feel like those three being that tightly bunched, like none of them are going to get out of control. But who do you think will be the most popular?
Probably Kupp after last week. I know Adams had a good game on a national stage, but I think people are still a bit apprehensive about Hundley. I think Kupp will probably end up being the most played out of that group. But I do think the other two, Adams and Anderson, and even Stephon Diggs at 62, could be really good sneaky plays.
Yeah, I just pulled it up now. So we have Kupp has twice as many start tags as Robbie Anderson. So definitely being talked up quite a bit. And Robbie Anderson has done like just really really done well this year, right? Like we thought he was just sort of a deep threat, and he's really turned into a pretty complete wide receiver. So it's been fun to watch his sort of evolution in the absence of Enunwa. We didn't really think anything was going to be going for the passing game, but he's sort of been the guy there. So fully in with you on Diggs too. I think it just seems like one of those spots where he can be the guy and break out and really win some people some money this week, because I think he's a bit of a forgotten guy at this point.
Right.
Then as we keep going down, we have I don't know. I mean, we have some interesting names in some bad spots, right? Like, I don't think I can get there with Tate and Jones in that matchup. I'm not crazy about it. I don't think you could really talk me into it. I think that there's just so many better plays outside of them. But who else are you looking at in this like upper 5K range?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's not looking great. Obviously, Amari Cooper is a big question mark. We don't think he's going to play, still in concussion protocol. Jarvis Landry's got a tough matchup against Chris Harris in the slot. It'll be interesting to see if Rashard Matthew plays at 57. Houston's secondary is pretty trashy still. They are at home as a touchdown favorite. I'm kind of intrigued by Marquise Lee at 52. Obviously, last week he did see some of Patrick Peterson in a tougher matchup. So I think this week against Indy, he's seen the target floor. His target floor has been there. He's going to be right around 7 or 8 targets at least in this game. It's really going to be depending if he scores or not. But as a big favorite at home against Indy, I think he's interesting at 52.
Yeah, I think that works for me too. And then just going down, I mean, the GOAT's back. Like, we got Josh Gordon back. Like, we got to talk about 4,100. Like, easy fucking money. Like, there's it's going to be great. He's going to go for like 220 and 3 touchdowns, and everything's going to be right in the world again. He's going to score a touchdown at the same moment that Tiger wins the Hero World Challenge this weekend, and everything is just going to be perfectly aligned. It's going to be great. I'm so excited. I'm like so here for this.
So he's going to be like 95% owned for your GPPs this week?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Okay, just checking. Just double check.
That hasn't backfired on me at all this year when I've gone fully in on something stupid like that. So why not?
So, I do have a question for you, though. I mean, talking about receivers not expecting to be where they are right now in terms of price, Jordy Nelson's $4,400. Like, GPP-wise, I think throw him in at least one lineup just because it's still Jordy frickin' Nelson. Like, he's still a damn good player, and he's super cheap. Like, just throw him in one lineup if you're trying to get some leverage on people playing Adams and playing Evans. Like, just do one.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy that price is pretty warranted looking through his game logs, right? Like,
he hasn't seen the ball. I mean, he just hasn't. But he's still Jordy. I feel like he's still Jordy Nelson. He's still a semi-elite wide receiver in this league.
Yeah, for sure. It's just like, I mean, he hasn't topped 35 receiving yards since week 6. Like, that's wild to me. I mean, it's just one of those things. Like, he started off with them, and you think you're just golden. You got a decent like mid-second round pick in your season-long leagues or whatever he was at that point, and you're like, I'm just coasting, and then Rodgers gets hurt, and that's all she wrote. Like,
I'm a shitter. Yep,
just wild. And then we also have I don't know. You want to talk about Dede? He's getting some air yards, man. I don't know. I'm a sucker for air yards, but I don't know. This is this like possibly sustainable? Like, is he gonna do anything?
I mean, he's captain preseason, right? So he was a damn baller in preseason. We know he's talented.
Right.
Just a matter of how many looks is he going to get, and he's got to actually connect with Blake Bortles. And I don't really trust Blake Bortles connecting on deep balls very often, especially with a smaller guy with a less than stellar catch radius versus someone like Allen Robinson, who's 6'5" and can jump out of the gym. So I'm not going to say no for a GPP just because we do know he's super talented, but I'm not going to build my lineups around Dede Westbrook.
And I mean, you just wait till next year when Eli's throwing it to him, and
That's
you'll
right.
be fine. So it doesn't even matter.
And there you go. Exactly. I think we do have to talk about those Raiders receivers, though, with the question marks around. Well, Crabtree's out. We know Cooper's got the question mark. Seth Roberts at 3,700, Cordero Patterson 3,400. Which out of those two are you kind of honing in on? I know you talked about Patterson before.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know, maybe half joking about Patterson, but I'm kind of serious.
Sort of, kind of not. Yeah.
Kind of do feel like he will end up scoring a touchdown by hook or by crook this week. But, I mean, Robert's ownership is just going to be insane, right? Like I'm pulling it up now as of Thursday night. Like, just to give you context, yeah, he only has 12 tags, but like everyone around him has one tag. You know what I mean? Like anybody who's going to pay all the way down this cheap is going to be rostering him. It's, nobody's playing Eric Decker for $100 more this week. I think it makes sense as a Giants fan. I know how bad they are, and Janoris Jenkins isn't going to be there either. And I don't think, as much as I love Landon Collins, I don't think he gives a fuck anymore. So it's just, I think you have to do it. I think I'll definitely have him in cash. I don't really know what his upside is though, right? Like what is your best, like what is his absolute ceiling this week? Like, do you see some like crazy game from him, or is it just he's gonna hit like 3.5, 4x and call it a day?
I mean, I could see like 6 for 90 and a touchdown.
Right.
Like, I think that's in the higher realm of possibility. I think his floor is like 4 for 65 against his defense.
Right. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I'm not like over the moon, like going crazy to be like, I have to get him in all of my play action lineups this week. Like that's definitely not a thing. I'll be underweight in GPPs. And I think, although it's not even leveraged because Jared Cook is going to be insanely owned this week too. I was like, maybe nobody else realized that the Giants suck against fucking tight end, but everybody knows. So, if you're good on my receivers, we can shoot over and start there at tight end.
Let's do it.
So yeah, I mean, it's well documented how horrific the Giants are against tight ends all year. It's just been awful. And we have a 5,400 Jared Cook, so he's about fifth on the price tags for tight ends. So he's just, you got to play him in some spots, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can differentiate yourself with Roberts and Cook and kind of go back and forth in some of your lineups. But yeah, he's got to get some play as that kind of mid-tier price guy. I also like Hunter Henry at 4,700 against Cleveland, who's almost equally as bad as the Giants in terms of points given up to tight ends. I know Henry doesn't necessarily have that perceived floor, but Jesus, I mean, Cook caught one ball last week. Like, it was so bad. And then, of course, last week we think Vernon Davis is going to get a ton of love too against the Giants, and he doesn't catch a damn football. So
yeah,
but yeah, Cook's in a great spot. Of course, I played a ton of Vernon Davis last week. Yeah, Jared Cook's in a great spot. You think you have to play him, but at the higher end, I mean, between Gronk, Kelsey, and Ingram, or kind of Gronk and Kelsey on their own, are you playing any one of those two?
I mean, it seems like there's a concerted effort again to get Gronk the ball, right? So, we kind of had like a fucking Dwayne Allen game, like a couple weeks ago. It was just like, what the hell's going on? Like Bennett's getting targets, Allen's getting targets, Gronk is sort of like in and out. So I mean, it's impossible to say don't play Gronk, but obviously Kelsey is in a little bit of a better spot. And I think that they have pretty similar projections. And I think that the Kansas City game could probably be closer and has a better potential for them to sort of need to keep him involved. Whereas if they get up a couple of touchdowns on Buffalo, like New England isn't going to be like force feeding Gronk. I wouldn't think. So I think I'm leaning towards Kelsey, but I'll definitely have exposure to both.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you on that one as well. I mean, Gronk, we saw the upside last week with that 2-touchdown game, but Yeah, I think Kelsey's got the chance for more volume in this matchup against the Jets. Kind of speaking on the opposite side of that Gronk matchup, what do you think about Charles Clay for 41?
It just feels gross, right? Like there's like no other way to describe it. It's one of those things where like you look and you do your research and you plug things in, you look at what other people are talking about, you try to come up with your own projections, and you're like, yeah, I think I could do that. And then like Sunday morning comes and you're like, am I really gonna click on Charles Clay? Like it was like so, I don't know. He's just kind of gross. Like there's no other way to describe it. Like 3 or 4 targets most games, and it's just like, I don't know. I just feel like there are better plays. Basically, like I'd rather just go to Henry or something. Like find the Bucks and go to Henry, or just play the GOAT Ricky Seals-Jones. Right? Like
there you go. Exactly. I mean, even though he's in a shit matchup this week, like he just catches touchdowns. That's all he does. Just keeps catching touchdowns. Unbelievable. Him and Blaine Gabbert, man, the match made in heaven.
I know, it's nuts. So I mean, clearly I'll have a little bit of exposure to him, but it's nothing that I'm going to go crazy on. I think that it makes a lot of sense this week, if you have sort of the balls to do it and just not completely fade Cook and Henry, but really go underweight on them. If you hit on a tight end who happens to catch 2 touchdowns this week outside of those 2 guys, you're going to make a lot of money.
Right.
So I think for game theory purposes, that makes a little bit of sense. But keep in mind that like what's his name? Cook is absolutely guaranteed 1 touchdown. Like there's no doubt in my mind about that. Like Patterson, I'm sort of joking about. Cook, I am not joking. Like he is going to score a touchdown. There is no doubt in my mind. I
know, but then you realize it's Jared Cook, and you're like, shit, it's Jared Cook.
Exactly. But that's kind of where I'm at. I don't think I don't know. I think I'll probably just spread it out between those guys and sort of hope that I hit on like a 2 touchdown game somewhere.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Then we can go to you can give us your pick for defense, and then we can talk about sacks because I'm not picking
defense. Is so ugly. It's so ugly this week. Like, I kind of want to play the Bears at home against San Francisco, but I'm not sure how well Jimmy Garoppolo is going to play or not.
Yeah.
So that kind of scares me off a bit. The top of the list, obviously, 4,500 for Jacksonville looks great against Indy, I should say. Chargers at 4K should absolutely smash the Browns. So I'm liking that as well. There's just really no great cheap options that I'm looking at right here. I mean, everyone under 2,800, it kind of sucks. I mean, if you're going to go cheap and if you cheaper with those corners coming back, you could play New Orleans at home if you're being contrarian and think that game script is completely. If you think they're going to hit the under in that game, but yeah, man, it's pretty gross unless you're paying up this week.
Yeah, fully on board. Totally agree. Cosign. I just click randomly on defenses. So I don't really. I honestly, I can't. I can't sink time into looking at it and then just see like some bullshit like last minute touchdown, fumble return for a touchdown, and be like, oh, cool. Like there we go. That was it.
Yeah.
Everybody who picked them projected that obviously at the last second. All right, so why don't we hit on a couple of stacks and then we can get out of here.
Awesome, man. Let's do it. Let's see. I think in terms of a game stack, I am liking that. Where was it before? The Carolina New Orleans game. I do think that game's gonna hit the over. So you can either go Breeze, who I think will be less owned than Cam this week at 6,500. Pair him up with Michael Thomas. And then if you want, you can run it back with Funches. You can run it back with McCaffrey. I think there are a ton of options there. The running backs in New Orleans, I really don't like as much as some of the receiving options. So I think I would rather go that route. But yeah, I think there's a ton of options in that game. I think Keenan Allen, Phillip Rivers is going to be a really high-owned stack, but one that's got a ton of upside as well, just in both smash spots. You could also super stack it and put Melvin Gordon in there as well. Hell, you can even throw Hunter Henry Jesus, they may drop 40 on Cleveland. That's how bad Cleveland is. Let's see what else. Brett Hundley and Devontae Adams. That was another one too. I think will be probably pretty popular with the love that Hundley's getting this week. Were there any ones you were thinking of?
Yeah, I mean, those are the ones that sort of made sense to me at first look, and something that I was that we sort of talked about throughout. I do think that I don't know. I've been trying to sort of dive in a little bit further into like some Vegas stuff, looking at like bets and whatever else, and it is interesting to see. There's some interesting games here. Like I think Atlanta, Minnesota is going to be overlooked slightly. It's one of those. It's a spot where they're like the third, maybe fourth highest total of the slate, and people sort of don't really pay much attention to it. But like 65% of the bets are coming in on the over on that. So I think you could stack that game up a couple of different ways, right? Like you could pay for Freeman at 5,700. You could stack Keenum up with one of the wide receivers. You could, I mean, again, it's not the best matchup, but I think you can find ways to sort of get exposure to that Atlanta passing game and run it back with the right guy in Minnesota and do something with that. So that would be sort of something a little bit lower owned that I'm toying around with, at least at this point in the week. But as always, like just like take a couple of shots and get like a solid cash core, right? Like if you hit on a quarterback wide receiver stack for a touchdown or two, like you're golden if you hit with anything else. So take some shots and sort of differentiate that way and stick to your cash core for everything else in your lineup and just print money. It's an easy game.
Totally easy game. Yeah.
All right, man. So why don't we close it out and get out of here? Thanks again for joining us. I believe that next week we will have another guest, so look out for that. Make sure you check out both of us on Twitter. I'm at Matt Jones TFR. Steve is at The Real Halupka. And good luck in your contest this week, guys. See you.